Good evening, everyone. So, Anna, a lot of people thought that this was the worst day for Trump and his campaign. Remember, we were on the air wondering, all right, when is this apology tape going to be released? What are they going to say? They predicted a huge downfall for him that obviously did not happen. And now Billy Bush is suggesting NBC lost because Trump won. What do you think of this?
You know, it brought me back to where I was, and I think everybody who was following this campaign and following the politics remembers where they were when this Access Hollywood tape was released. I was on a plane from Washington to Miami, and it must have had good Wi-Fi because I remember all the pinging going on the phones and the iPads on the plane, and everybody on the plane. There were a lot of politicos there thinking it's over. I remember Trump was going to Wisconsin a couple of days later. And the bigwigs, the Republican bigwigs in Wisconsin, decided not to show up to the event. I remember Mike Pence and Mother being so upset they wouldn't speak to Trump for days. And then the party of Christian values, the party of family values, elected him 1 month later and totally forgot about it. In the meantime, Billy Bush has paid the consequences for 5 years. Look, you know, his role was to be a, sophomoric guy on a bus, but he's not the guy that was boasting of sexual assault.
Brian, Bush exited NBC within 10 days of that tape coming out. He had just started as the Today Show's 9 a.m. hour host. He says that NBC sacrificed him. Listen, what does it say about what was happening behind the scenes at NBC? Because wasn't that ultimately their tape as well? How did that tape get out?
It was NBC's tape. It was. And Bush is going closer than he ever has before to saying he was fired, he was canceled. You know, 5 years ago, we didn't have that phrase cancel culture the way everybody knows it today. But Billy Bush is an example of a leadership, in this case NBC, at an institution that decided to cancel someone just to get over the bad press, just to avoid the bad press. And now I think 5 years later, we can view this in a very different way and say that was an injustice, you know, the way Billy Bush was treated. That there was an attempt to get a short-term gain just to like get rid of him, but a long-term damage that was done as a result. It took years for Billy Bush to find work again, and now he's the host of Extra. He says on Instagram tonight, I have a plan to use this experience to help heal the culture, and I'm really curious what he means by that, you know, with the 5 years that we've had since. But in the meantime, I think when we look back at that night 5 years ago, Don, we can see even more clearly what an injustice this was and what an upside-down world this was. That Billy Bush was the one that suffered from all of this, and Donald Trump benefited. And it reminds me that those of us in the media, we do need to work to call out indecency. Indecency is not partisan, it's not left or right. It's about right versus wrong. And 5 years from now, you know, I hope we're not having these same conversations. I hope we've made progress as a society, so we're not having the same conversations over and over again.
Well, listen, let me just say this. I think if you ask Billy Bush, he will say, I think he would agree that he doesn't agree. I think he believes that maybe he should have been disciplined.
Yes, he screwed up that day.
He screwed up something, but being fired. And then after that, people not wanting to hire him because of that. I mean, was that fair to Billy Bush when you look at the overall big picture? And
I think that's what's evolved in this kind of conversation about cancel culture, so to speak, that your worst moment does not define you as a human being. However, when it's part of a pattern, and that's what we learned about Donald Trump, part of a pattern, then it is something to take seriously.
But you know what, Brian? I hate the term cancel culture, which you know, we use over and over again because it's a term that doesn't allow for nuance. Okay, canceling Harvey Weinstein for what he did, or Charlie Rose, or Mark Halperin is very different than penalizing somebody like Billy Bush for saying something stupid and being at the wrong place at the wrong time and being the one who carried the blame so NBC could somehow continue going along. I don't like that term, cancel culture, because sometimes it's not canceling. Sometimes it's consequence culture. Sometimes it's accountability culture. Sometimes it's responsibility culture. And I do think that as we look at it in hindsight, what happened to Billy Bush was too much. And it was not, and when you, even more so when you put it in perspective to what happened to Donald Trump, which was absolutely nothing.
Anna, that video, the night that video came out, you were certainly fired up on this show. Let's play it.
Oh, Lord.
Single Republican is going to have to answer the question, what did you do the day you saw the tape of this man boasting about grabbing a woman's period?
All right.
Will you please stop saying that word? My daughter is listening.
Yeah,
and
you
we're
know
not
what,
on a delay.
Scotty?
She is.
You know what,
Said it,
Scotty?
but at least we
Don't
bleep
tell
it
me
out.
you're
Please
offended
stop
when I
saying
say
that.
but you're not offended when Donald Trump
I am
says
very
it.
offended by you
I'm not
saying
running
that
for
word
president.
over and
He
over on
is.
this. Yes. And I said I was
Okay,
offended
so
by
then
Donald Trump.
don't act outraged and
Man's a
offended when I say
disgrace.
the word that you're not offended by the man who you are supporting is saying. That is
I
just
said I was
absurd.
offended by.
Well, Anna, you have been consistent then, even in 2016. You're consistent now. Yet here we are in 2021 with the GOP still putting all their stock in Trump, still making excuses for him, even for the violent insurrection. The former vice president, who the insurrectionists were saying they were going to hang him. The reaction there, I mean, that was sort of a precursor for what was to come.
Yeah, I mean, listen. First of all, thank you for putting that video on because I think I look really cute. I need to lose a lot of weight.
Same here, both of us.
I think it was, I really do think it was a harbor of things to come, right? We have seen since 5 years of hypocrisy from Republicans willing to justify and defend anything as long as they can stay near power and they can be part of the circle of power. So we have seen people that call themselves Christian, including people like Mike Pence, clutch their pearls when I quote the president of the United States about something, and and then beat their chest about being faithful Catholics or faithful Christians or faithful whatever, and yet go and defend somebody that's consistently shown such lack of morality and having absolutely no conscience or principles, and certainly no values.
Yeah.
And it was, but this came after he mocked a reporter with a disability. This came after he called John McCain a loser for being captured and said he didn't like POWs and people who had been captured. So this is, it was just, but it was probably the worst because we were hearing it on tape. The guy wanting to be leader of the free world, boasting of sexual assault. But I'll say just one thing before we end. I think what's really something that we should also highlight is that I think it changed and influenced the Me Too movement.
Oh, yes.
I think Donald Trump's election was the catalyst to get women to speak up and stand locking arms behind each other, and that has brought accountability to many others. Maybe Donald Trump got away with it, or he did, but many others have not because women got pissed and got active because of Donald Trump.
Brian, I'm up against the clock, as you know. I just want to make it clear, especially you as a media reporter. No one is saying that Billy Bush didn't do anything wrong. What he did and said was wrong, but it's about balance. It's about perspective.
Proportionality.
And proportionality, right.
Proportionality. That's exactly what it's about. And 5 years later, we can see that now more clearly than ever before.
Yeah. Thank you both. I appreciate it.